Hi everyone, and welcome back to Ladies of Lavender. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe and like to join the Ladies of Lavender family. Alright guys, so for today's video, I thought I'd do something a little bit less formal and answer some of y'all's period questions while getting ready. But before we get into that, I did want to remind you guys that we do have a Instagram. Make sure to go follow us over at Ladies of Lavender. We post every single week to give you guys a heads up on what video we are posting for the week. And we do donations every other month. April, this month, is a donation month. And we just finished our 2 weeks of actually getting donations in, so you want to make sure to follow us so you know where we're donating, what that system looks like. And if you want to ask questions for our period Q&As, make sure to follow us over there so you can send them in. Alright, let's get right into the video. So before we actually kind of get into the period questions, I did want to say that I did want to apologize for the fact that I have not been putting out videos very regularly, that we haven't really been able to put out videos consistently. I know that we started as a channel that put out a video every single week, and that just didn't become very realistic once the school year started, and now we're kind of putting out 1 to 2 videos a month, if that. And so I just wanted to say that because it's almost the end of my school term, I've been getting a lot of work lately, and it's just been a lot to keep up with. So I'm not going to make any promises. I doubt that I'll be able to get back into a regular system until probably into the summer at least. But yeah, it's a lot of work filming and then editing and then uploading, and sometimes I just really don't feel up to it. And I'm so thankful for all of you who have decided to stay with us and continue to support us and watch our videos. It means the world to me. So let's go ahead and get into the questions. So the first question that we got was about where did the word period come from? So if you don't know, the word period actually resonated from a Latin word. It was like peri and then hodos, which meant kind of like path, way, or something like that. It didn't really mean anything like what it means today, but those 2 Latin words then started to change into the word period, which means increments of time or like cycles, or more importantly, reoccurring cycles. That's where the word originated from. But that doesn't mean that when a woman was menstruating, they would call it period. The word period didn't actually become popular to use when describing menstruation until probably around the 18th century, when it became more of like a slang term, instead of a word that we use nowadays just as kind of like a medical term. The next question that we got that I thought was kind of a large question, like it was a hard question to answer, which was about period shaming. And honestly, I find that question to be a very, very big question, like a very complex question. And I think it's somewhat of a controversial question too, but I'll do my best to kind of like add my stance to it. But period shaming obviously is the act of someone shaming someone for their period, or making someone feel bad that they're menstruating, or just kind of altogether it's making periods a very negative and usually a very gross thing. So I personally think that that's usually stemmed from a lack of education. I guess I'll say that. I think it's a lack of proper education on this subject. I'm not saying that they're not educated. I'm just saying that maybe on the subject of periods, I don't think that they are complexly educated on the subject. I think that there's a lot of misconceptions about periods, and I think that a lot of you guys will agree, periods have always been a very stigmatized thing. So I think that is descended from poor education on the subject, but also born on misconceptions. And then I think that those things make them very uncomfortable about periods, and so they just kind of get caught in period. a cycle. But, you know, the whole point of this channel was to, first of all, educate, you know, but really to tackle this, this thing with period stigmas that is so relevant in our culture, where people are just aren't really educated on it. Everyone can do what they wish, but I do encourage people of all genders to educate themselves on periods, because they aren't something that is bad or, you know, gross. They're a completely normal bodily process that is really incredible when you really think about it. I mean, I think that we can all, everyone who's menstruating can agree that it's probably quite annoying, but it's really incredible what it's made to do and what it actually does for your body. I think a lot of us will agree that we don't want to talk about periods with people at school, or we don't want to bring it up because it's so stigmatized. It's like a bad thing, as a gross thing, as an embarrassing thing that like no one wants to talk about it. So I personally don't see the problem with it. But you know, there's always people out there who really don't like this kind of stuff and get really uncomfortable. Anyway, I think that you can tell that this is a complex topic, and I'm sure that I will end up doing a video on it later at some point. So this was kind of like a mass of my thoughts, like I'm just putting out there. It wasn't really an organized thought. But yeah, I think that period shaming, I don't necessarily blame the person for period shaming, because I think that they're, first of all, uneducated, and I think that they believe in misconceptions, and I think that they just, you know, fell victim to the stigma, and that's not necessarily their fault. And I think that if, you know, they decide to watch these videos or do research on their own, that they'll, you know, realize that periods aren't the things that they think they are. And, you know, or they can, you know, continue to believe that, and that's their decision. Okay, so I'm not really sure what I want to do with my makeup. I kind of thought I'd just go natural, but I'm not really sure. Let me know down below if you kind of like these kinds of videos where I'm getting ready. And then the last question that we got was how to make sure that you have your tampon in, right? And I think it's kind of funny that we had we have 3 completely different question topics. So to answer the last question, with a funny story, when I first started using tampons, I had absolutely no idea what I was doing, and I would not insert my tampon all the way in, which made it very uncomfortable. So I think that the easiest thing to do is, when you're inserting a tampon, make sure that you're inserting the tampon with the applicator all the way up, so you can't insert it any farther to the very top. The way you know that you've inserted it far enough is you won't be able to feel the tampon at all. When you sit down, you shouldn't be able to feel it. When you're running, when you're walking, you shouldn't be able to feel it. You'll still be able to see the string, you know, nothing is changing. It's just farther up where it's not as uncomfortable, and it's easier for the tampon to collect the blood. Kind of like a menstrual cup, where you want to insert the menstrual cup all the way up and make sure it's unfolded so it can collect the blood. But if you, for some reason, insert the tampon and you think that you've inserted it all the way, but you can still feel the tampon and it's uncomfortable, then what you can do is you can wash your hands, but you can put a finger on the end of the cotton and just slowly push up until you feel that it's far enough up. Again, you'll still be able to see the cotton string. Nothing's going to change. It's just going to be farther up, so it's more comfortable for you. And I think that for those of you who are just starting to use tampons, I know that a lot of you guys comment on our videos when you first start to use tampons, and I'd honestly recommend that you go to like Walmart and get just some cheap tampons just to try them out. And that way, when you're first starting to use tampons, you're not using the ones that are like really expensive, like Tampax or something, you're using the cheap ones. And so, you know, while you're in that stage of figuring out how to insert the tampon, what's best for you, how long you want to leave it in, how far up that you need to insert the tampon, that kind of thing, while you're figuring that stuff out, you know, you're not necessarily like using up a bunch of like really nice tampons. Like that's, I wish that I had done that, because I know when I was starting to use tampons, like I said, I wouldn't insert them well, they would get really uncomfortable, and then I would take them out and then just use pads, and so I would be throwing away tons of perfectly good tampons. If you guys are still kind of uncomfortable about using tampons, like use tampons that you don't feel bad about throwing away because, you know, you've done it wrong or you're still getting used to it. Okay. I think that's all I'm gonna do for my makeup. I know that it literally doesn't look any different than when I started, but that's kind of how I do it. I just like do just natural looks, or I'll do like pink eyeshadow or something just to like spice it up a little bit. But anyway, so yeah, I know that this wasn't an extremely exciting video, so thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. If you have any questions about today's video or any period related questions in general, you can send us an email at ladiesoflavender20@gmail.com. You can DM us on Instagram at ladiesoflavender, or you could leave a comment down below. Thank you so much for watching this video. Let me know down below what kind of videos you want to see. We have a few recommended videos that we're going to try to incorporate fairly soon. So yeah, thank you so much for watching this far if you have, and I'll try to see you next week. Bye guys. I've been looking